Okay, so here today we're going to be talking about Euro under-23 goalkeepers for the new season, and I'm joined today by Mark McBride Ace down there, as you can see on the bottom. How you doing, Mark?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
Did you get to watch any of the games? I know he's having troubles watching a game, weren't you, today?
No, I couldn't get it on. Said it was available in the UK, but I think actually I was having a look about and people were saying there was issues with the websites. I think
Oh,
all the Sorare managers have all crashed the UEFA website
I
watching the
put something on
games.
Twitter saying
So
watch it on there, but never mind. I managed to watch it, so it was a decent game.
yeah,
Keeper did all right, but Gravenbach wasn't that
yeah,
good, so we'll see.
pretty
But
tight, eh? Pretty tight game.
yeah, but I've made two watch lists today because we want to talk about keepers. We know how good you are with goalkeepers. And I wanted to talk about the Euro under 23s. It's our passion, isn't it? The under 23s, and especially you with the goalkeepers. So I've done a list that you mentioned five goalkeepers that you want to talk about. So we can look at that first. I've done a watch list with them on it,
Yeah,
so it's easy to click on. And then I've got some goalkeepers I want to ask you about to see how they're getting on, how they're doing, because I quite like them as well. And I think you've mentioned them to me in the past. So I just want to see how they're getting on. So
yeah.
we're going to click on
No,
this
that
and
sounds
using
good.
Sorare data, by the way.
Yeah,
So in no particular order, I think it might be done on value at the moment. I want to do it that way as well. Okay. And I'll make it to value as well, the floor value, if it works, if the computer's quick enough for me.
technology, eh?
There we are. There we are. We're on.
Some math.
Okay. So the first one then we're going to
Excellent.
look at Bart Verbruggen. Talk to me about him because he did really well. He was fantastic today, by the way.
Yeah. I think he's some player. Like I think if you remember when you were we were talking in the WhatsApp group, I was sort of building up a few of him in terms of the limited side of things. And I remember back to Anderlecht had like a spell where Van Krombrugge was injured and then
Yeah.
Verbruggen came in and it was like the playoffs. This was like 2 years ago or something. And I remember thinking, right, Krombrugge is going to come back in, and then he left him in for a few games, and you're thinking, oh, that's quite interesting. And then after that, Krombrugge won the place back, but he always seemed to be hugely highly rated. The other thing that happened was obviously Company moved to Burnley and he ended up
Mm.
signing Muric, but he really wanted to sign Verbruggen and Anderlecht asked for 10 million euros. So you're thinking, is this just like sort of paper talk or whatever? But Company
Yeah.
wants to buy this guy and Anderlecht want a huge fee for him. And if he's that good, why is he not playing? So, you've had all those types of things. And then lo and behold, they've actually at some point said, right, we're going to struggle to make Europe here. We're struggling a bit for money. And they've
Yeah.
said to Krombrugge, look, we're going to have to play this guy. And he's kind of stepped aside without making a huge fuss of it as well. So, like, usually if you've got an experienced goalkeeper and they're bringing in a young guy, if maybe you think this guy's not very good or whatever, it would be all sorts of toys out the pram stuff. But he's taken it quite well, which is, I think he's a captain as well, so that's quite good. But so there's been a lot of history in terms of what's happened and everything. But
Yeah.
like, if you speak to anybody that's involved in that league or seen him play or whatever, then they're saying this guy's the best goalkeeper to come out of Belgium since Courtois, really. So,
Well,
and
what do you think is going to happen to
the,
Verbruggen? Because there's now talk as well that United have been linked with him, aren't they? But so are Burnley again.
yeah,
So he's trying to, I don't know if he's
yeah.
still trying to get him or not. I mean, Muric is doing a good job, isn't he? But will Verbruggen go, do you think, down to someone like Burnley again?
Well, there's rumours of Brighton as well.
Oh, of course.
That would be an interesting one because obviously the guy Steele's just kind of overtaken Robert Sanchez. But the
Yeah.
interesting thing there is Verbruggen's quite a modern goalkeeper. So when you see him play, and I have watched like a good few games of him now and everything as well, and you sometimes just see highlights, but like we try and catch games like Anderlecht games
Yeah.
or whatever. They were playing in Europe, right, and he saved the penalties and stuff at the end.
He was
He
good
is
tonight.
comfortable on the ball.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah,
Schmeichel tonight. Spreads his body quite wide.
yeah,
He's quite a tall guy, isn't he?
yeah. So
That's
he's a
how it
bit. He's
seems.
young. He's a big guy. He's only 20 just now, but
Yeah.
he's a big guy. He makes saves, but he looks like a good modern goalkeeper as well. It looks as if he's quite comfortable in the ball. He gets involved in the build up. You see
Yeah.
stats and everything on. Well, obviously, I usually use like SofaScore for that, but his passing accuracy and things like that are good. So back to Brighton, that's the main rumour just now, and people are saying, well, why go and spend 20 million in this guy when obviously they've got the guy Steele, but at the end of the day,
Yeah,
if they're going to spend 20 million on him, then it's because they rate him, right? It's because he's 20 and he just looks like a really good goalkeeper. And also, he got a game for Holland as well. I think like at one point, I know he's
yeah.
playing for under 21 just now, but they brought him into a squad and they played him for the national team. So there's loads of signs there that the guy is just as top class. And obviously, it doesn't always work out because people have been touting Van der Voort and
Yeah,
Martin's going to Leipzig, and he is a good goalkeeper and stuff, but people do think this guy's better than Martin van der Voort, and like
I mean
I just
tonight.
think
Yeah, you see there, he hit an 86 tonight. I mean, he was outstanding tonight. There was quite a few one-on-ones that he managed to get through and save.
yeah,
He looked pretty unbeatable, to be honest. So it's gone up in my estimation a little bit there. And I did have one, as you saw earlier on the things, I did have one that sold him because I had Van der Voort, who I think would be better, but I'm now
yeah.
starting to think, was that a mistake now? Because he looked really good.
Well, I mean, there was a weird situation in Sorare as well, where for some reason this season he wasn't getting minted, so his price
Yeah,
was staying quite high, but there was no additional mints. And then they brought him out near the end of the season, and there was some transfer speculation, and immediately his price dropped. But with him being 20, he's really one of the key points out under 23 until 2027. So people
yeah,
sometimes are only just looking at next season, but if you buy this guy could well be the future undisputed Dutch number one. Maybe he does end up at Man United. Maybe the Gea
yeah,
situation there that is at the point where they don't want to like give him a new contract. Also, Ten Hag is Dutch, so there is a link
yeah,
there.
that's true. Yeah.
Probably going to be aware of him because he's played for the under 21s a lot, and he's played for the national team. So who knows? I mean, obviously with these transfers, there's various rumours for every single player, but I think he's good enough that even if he does go somewhere and he has an initial integration period, he's going to be playing at some point. And Brighton would be a good one because if he
It
doesn't
is a
get
good
in
one.
the team, what they did with Sherpin was he didn't get in the team and they realised then they couldn't hold him back and then they loaned him out.
Yeah,
So for Brighton, he's never going to sit in the bench for years because they're too clever for that. They're not. They're not going to ruin him. So yeah, I just think like when we were having a conversation and the main point was right, pick out five of who I think is going to be the best goalkeepers next year,
yeah.
and without knowing where he's moving, you've got to have him in there. I think
Do
like
you think he's number
just
one at the moment? One of your choices? Do you think he's number one out of them five? We'll come to the others in a minute, but
well, I mean, he's certainly putting up really good SO5 scores as well. Obviously some of this depends on the team you're in as well, right? Because even if you are a really
yeah,
good goalkeeper and you're doing lots of saves, ultimately you concede 3 goals a game, then you're going to go down to the negative decisive and you're not going to score well. But he's proven even with an Anderlecht team that's pretty much mid-table, well, they are
yeah,
mid-table, not pretty much mid-table, they'll never get into Europe. So he's proven that actually that he's capable. So yeah, I think he's a really interesting choice, and they have started reminting the cards and everything again, which means that his price has come down a bit from the start peak prices where he wasn't getting minted. So
yeah. And of course, because the Euros are on at the moment as well, he might be higher valued at the moment because of the utility of the under 21s in the
yeah,
tournament. But see, it's tricky because you think, do I wait until the under 21s have finished? But then the season's even nearer, so his price is going to start going up again as the
yeah,
season's nearer. But
it depends on the move. I mean, like if Man United were to retain the game and bring in a guy like that and say it's competition, the problem is you don't know who's going to
yeah,
play. Now you might get a scenario where maybe one of the goalkeepers gets the European games and one of them gets the league games because Man United obviously are in Europe and stuff like that as well. So teams do weird things from that point of view, depending on whether they're in the Europa, the Champions League, what competition they're prioritising, or maybe some of the English teams will play some of the young goalkeepers in the cups,
yeah,
like the FA Cup, and the Carabao Cup and stuff like that. So you need to watch stuff like that as well. But as long as you know when they're going to play, the worst thing you can have is a situation where there's rotational goalkeepers or
yeah,
the manager can't make his mind up who the best goalkeeper is. Like, you just want somebody to nail the place, and then you
I
know where
mean,
you're.
Brighton would be a good move for him, wouldn't it? I think because he would be number
Yeah,
one most weeks. I'm thinking, but anyway,
yeah,
that's for Bruggen then. But obviously,
yeah,
I might have to get another one. He's got Van der Voort, so I might have to get the Bruggen.
yeah.
Now, this guy next, and I don't know a lot about this guy. This Noah
At the moment.
a two below. Got him
Yeah,
Noah a two below.
he's the
£67.
so he's the Germany under 21 goalkeeper. So
Yeah.
obviously Mantel's in that squad, and he started playing. So it's not completely certain that he'll play, but I think everybody's confident he will play. So there's a couple of things. I think he's only 21, so he's still pretty young at the moment.
Do you think he'll start for Germany in the under 21s? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I've picked
Right,
him
ahead
this
of
week,
Man
so I do
City.
hope so. Right?
Right.
So I
Because
think
he's
he'll
not,
start.
yeah, he's not had
Yeah,
many games for Freiburg, has he?
no, but
Um,
they're talking about Flecken. I think Flecken's leaving, so
yeah,
he's been the backup, and actually, I think in any games that he has played, if Flecken's been suspended or injured or whatever, he's come in. So I think
yeah.
that pretty much they're saying he's going to play.
Is that reflecting his price there at the moment? £1,000 for a keeper that's not playing that
Yeah,
much at the
so
moment. Yeah,
he's really flown up, and that's a mixture of, obviously, Germany are usually one of the pre-tournament favourites for competitions like this. Okay, Verbruggen, Martin, they've done well and everything, but they were in probably more difficult groups than Germany. So Germany have got like Israel, who don't have a lot of their good under 21 players like Abada and stuff like that. So
yeah,
Germany look as if they've got a more favourable group than some of the other guys. So as soon as, obviously,
yeah.
the tournament's
And
coming about, as soon as the news coming about regarding the first goalkeeper, then obviously it's, his price is flowing. But he's always been quite expensive, and that always reassures you with young goalkeepers as well, where there's a lot of confidence behind them, because yeah, I mean, the market's really hugely out on guys like this, if that makes sense. And anybody
yeah.
in the know in terms of German football, he's been playing for Germany under 21, etc. So
I mean, I don't know him to be honest. I'd never heard of him. When you mentioned it before, I was like, "Who's he?" I don't.
yeah,
I hadn't followed the
you know
Germany
him
under
now.
21s. Yeah, well, I do now. Yeah, if you said he's good, then it's worth a look at, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
I did check this out when you said it. I checked this out earlier, the Wikipedia page, to see who he was, and there wasn't that much on him, as you can see there. But he's like 6'2".
yeah,
He's only young, so he's going to get bigger, isn't he? Played a lot of games for Freiburg seconds, but I haven't looked into their games yet about how he's performed and that.
yeah. So you
But
see
look at
there,
this.
he
Yeah,
played the
looks like
unders categories for Germany, so it
yeah,
looks as if he played a lot of um the German unders categories, and the
yeah,
Germany unders teams do pretty well at these
yeah. They're
tournaments, and
good
they
at youth,
do
aren't they?
develop a lot of good players as well.
He
So
hasn't scored though. He's not that
I
good. Yeah, so he's definitely one to keep an eye on.
think
Because,
you could be
like I
a
say,
Sheila or something. So
yeah, I don't know much about him at all. So
yeah,
I
but
might have to dig a bit deeper.
I'm pretty sure Flecken's going. So the other thing to point out from his point of view is, obviously, he's playing for Freiburg. They are a reasonable team in terms of league position in Germany. Also, he's a champ Euro under 23 goalkeeper. So
Yeah,
given he's playing for the under 21s, which is now covered, you can't get much more utility than that, because obviously he's either available to play in the best tournaments that are available on
yeah,
Sorare, being under 23s probably, and champ, and obviously he's available for All Star as well. So kind of max utility, plus obviously years left of under 23s as well. And I've seen a report where they were talking about um, he'll come in and talking about how they might struggle to keep him. Saying he's not even played yet, like,
yeah. But
that's quite confident, if you're talking about what's going to
yeah, but
happen going forward.
the thing is, those
So
small galleries. I mean, like myself, my gallery's small. It's under a grand, or just over a grand now. But to pay £65 out, and the guy's going to, well, he
yeah,
might start, he might not. I don't know.
yeah,
It's a lot of them to fork
yeah.
out. I think I prefer Verbruggen, but
Yeah. I mean, choice-wise, I mean, the advantage of Attabolo over Verbruggen is Verbruggen's moves kind of a wee bit up in the air at the moment, whereas this guy
yeah,
is getting his chance because Flecken is moving. So I think Flecken's definitely signed for Brentford to replace Raya. So,
Brentford.
and they've said they're not signing another number one or whatever. It seems to be
Okay,
they've
he's going to
confirmed
step
that
up
he'll
then.
get his chance. So I think that there's probably still a small risk, but also there's risks associated with other goalkeepers in the transfer window as well. So people are obviously quite confident, and the price just now reflects the fact that he's got usage throughout this under 21s tournament as well, as you're saying. So you're spot on there. He's pretty active at the moment, and also he's really low on the caps. So because he's been on the bench, like you can play him in the cap tournaments. So he's really, really handy at the moment, obviously.
Well, let's have a look at the third one then. This is a name I know well because I've had quite a few of these, so it might pop up on the screen that I've had them.
Yeah.
I know I made profit on a few of them, but so I've had them quite. You know me with my guys, I've had them quite a few times and got rid again, then got them again as I try and settle. But let's have a look on here. Let's go to the all-time. I mean, what's he now? He's only 53 quid.
Yeah, that's pretty good now. Yeah, I mean, he was going through an insane spell. And first thing to point out with this guy is he's only just getting into the team this season, so he's got 1 year left of under 23s. But before he played this season, he didn't really have any history of playing for Reims. So the point there where you see the graph where he's nearly like 180 quid. Well, at that stage, he remember Reims had a spell where they were just doing loads of clean sheets and everything, and there was all the Will Still stuff about how he was undefeated and how he'd no license and all that sort of rubbish. So I'm not going to go over that again. But
it's a grand look, £1,000. I mean, obviously they all went down, didn't they? But £1,000 drop there.
Yeah. So I mean, firstly, last 40 or 56, pretty good. So he seems to have a good AA for a goalkeeper. So Reims aren't like Paris Saint-Germain or Lens or whatever. They're a mid-table-ish team who are quite solid. So it's quite a nice profile for a guy going into next season because obviously the only downside is only 1 year left of under 23s. But again, Champ Europe goalkeeper, he's nailed in the position. There's no real talk of him being dropped or anything as far as I can see. He did. Part of the reason behind his price, because at the end of the season they were a bit more shaky, but they were in one of these positions where they couldn't really get in Europe and they couldn't get relegated, and their form wasn't really that good as a team. But if you look at his scores, like I mean, that's really good. That's really good for a goalkeeper. So that's good.
He's played more than that, hasn't he?
No, he's only been in the team this season. He only got in round about 5-6 games into the season or something. That's all he's played. So that also tells me that he may also have potential to be a real top goalkeeper, because to come in and to perform like that is quite impressive, really, with no real track record of playing for other teams, as far as I can see. I don't know if he got some loans out when he was younger or whatever, but he seems to have kind of come out.
Look at the scores there. That's when he was good. This is when I was buying him, I think, when he was at the highest price.
Yeah.
And then he dropped down again, but it'll get better again. I know his score will pick up again. So it's a good time to buy him when he's just at 24. So it's a really good time to buy him.
Yeah. Particularly limited, because obviously if you see the guys who are playing in the under 23s just now are trading at higher than that. He's only got a year left of under 23s, but realistically, when it gets to August and September, people who are buying them will mainly be focusing on who's the best to get, not how many years you've got left. Me and you, we might focus on that, but most of the market will just be thinking, right, who's scoring the highest? And obviously, again, you're losing guys like Donnarumma, Alban, Lafont. There's loads of guys going out the under 23s again, which is one of the main sort of bits of fun with under 23s, that you get this regeneration where you've got to try and think about who's going to be the next good one, not just who's the current good one, because it's an age category. So
I mean, there's not a lot on him there, but it keeps going up. Probably because the name Diop, there's quite a lot of them, isn't there? It's trying to set.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll move then?
There's no talk of it just now. I mean, obviously, you can never rule it out, because he has done pretty well. And again, I think he's a more Danish goalkeeper too. He's obviously form stepped a wee bit towards the end of the season, and that they've started conceding a few more and stuff. But I think that if they come back in the new season, they're relatively well organised again. That with his save percentage and stuff, with his AA, he's averaging 13 AA. that's equivalent to some outfielders that I've been looking at
24 there,
for
look.
video, 13A.
Little.
So that's good. So yeah, I mean, I think he's a real good pickup, and I really needed to take the plunge and get a playing under 23 goalkeeper super rare wise, and he's who I picked. So you can really be accused of trying to highlight somebody I've no bought. Like I've got him in every scarcity. So
We're on different levels here, look, Mark, because I haven't even got
I
the blue
know.
ones here.
Yeah,
I've only got limited in rares
um,
listed, so
I don't look at how much that was.
don't
Yeah, I
bother.
mean,
How
he's
much is he? About we'll see it here. Look, can see it here.
yeah,
3 grand, 3.5 grand.
he's not cheap.
Yeah, and only 6 grand. Look for his Yeah, that's quite cheap, actually, isn't it?
I think that was probably because he sold earlier on in the season, the unique, I
Yeah,
think. I don't think it's listed or anything just now. Obviously, there's only one because he's only started being minted this season.
that's mental. So we're going to the next one. Who we've heard of. Lovro. How do you say it's Makic?
Magic.
Makic.
Magic. Yeah.
Magic. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite cheap, isn't
Um,
it? 37 to 41 quid. Playing them
yeah.
not so. Yeah, they're not a glamorous team, are they? They struggle. They did all right
No.
in the league, I think, didn't they?
Yeah. So season before they were kind of near the bottom, and this season they nearly get into Europe, which is not a
Yeah.
big league in terms of like numbers of teams or whatever. But he's done pretty well, and I don't know if there were any serious links, but there was some talk of if Livakovic left
Yeah.
Dynamo Zagreb that maybe they would look at somebody of that ilk to bring in terms of another goalkeeper. He's got a really solid average. So I mean, this is
Yeah.
he's one of the five here, including Labrovic, the last one that I don't actually own myself. But the remit was pick who I think will be good next season. So
Yeah.
if he moves, then I can see it being a positive move because it's either going to be a move I think to Dynamo Zagreb or something there, or maybe somebody scouted him, maybe somebody will pick him up. So there's always a risk that you could move and be benched or whatever. But we're going through a transfer window, and if we were going to factor that in, we just wouldn't do a video, right? So people can move. But if you want to fire up his SO5 scores, you'll see
Yeah. To look on
he's
that.
actually quite a consistent type of a goalkeeper as well. I think he's. So I mean, you look at his scores there again. They're pretty good, right? So
Yeah, they're not bad, are they?
keeper wise, that's pretty good.
Only had that one, 2 games there to get a naught for 90 minutes
Yeah.
at a naught and a 5-4 deal. But
Aye,
yeah,
but I
they're
mean,
decent scores, aren't they? For 41 quid and that as a limited.
that's
Oh, look at
matrix
that.
related as well. You concede 5 goals and you're negative decisive, and I
Yeah.
think he might conceded a penalty that day. But look at his form. He's a good player. He's young, obviously, because we're talking about under 23s, but he's got good experience behind him in terms of playing for Istra as well, and he looks if he's got consistency about him. And
Yeah, they've done
yeah,
all
I
right,
mean,
haven't they? Looking at the scores. A few greens there, haven't there?
yeah,
And a lot of
I
draws
mean
though as well. But
that's good. That is good for
yeah.
a goalkeeper. You
Is there any
know,
news on him? Let's have a look at the news.
nothing recently that I can kind of see recently, but obviously the transfer window will develop. So
Yeah. Let's have a look. It suddenly goes flying, doesn't it? You think nothing's happening, then bang, all of them sort of transfer. So it's happened
yeah,
a few times, hasn't it? Let's look at his news. It's going slow tonight, this computer, in it, but
I think
did
it's
all we
probably
can
all
with it.
kind of local, like local type, news like local league news and stuff. Nothing really, because he's not really that high profile. So, um,
Yeah,
so
I
for
mean,
that point of view, there's nothing really huge at the moment, but that could still develop. But he's done well. I think he's good, and he really stood out to me looking at the overall
yeah.
averages and
I mean,
consistency and things.
93%, look, 93 for his last 40, so he's been in all the games and he's consistent,
Yeah,
like you say, 53 there. That's pretty consistent, isn't it?
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, he's all right. Don't mind him at all. Let's have a look at the last one you've labelled then.
Yeah,
How do you even say this one? Labrovic, who's 23.
big
Has he got 1
lab.
year left, has he?
He's the same, yeah. So again, kind of got into the same league. Rijeka, I
Yeah.
think they may well have got into Europe.
Did they?
Let me see. Did they? I want to see who's. Right, so Zagreb standings. Nah, they
Price
didn't.
list is
Did
shite
they?
again.
Yeah.
28 to 30 quid.
They came fourth, so I think that they might sneak
Yeah.
into some sort of conference level because Dynamo, Hajduk, Osijek, and then Rijeka finished 3 points ahead of Istra.
Well, he'll
So
probably
again,
stay then, won't he? I would think he'll stay.
yeah. I mean, again, he's talented, and that's a league where the talent tends to get sort of plundered, for want of a better word,
Yeah.
where they
Yeah.
move on eventually. But goalkeeper wise, like he looks pretty good too. Any sort of talk about him generally seem to be quite highly rated, and obviously you look at his scores, his average is a wee bit lower than the
Well, pretty
last
much
guy
the
we
same,
picked
isn't
out.
it? It's pretty much similar to the
Yeah,
other guy.
yeah. They had a bad spell if you look back there, obviously a really
Yeah.
sort of bad spell where he was doing really low scores, and you know I think they had another goalkeeper there at Rijeka, and
Yeah.
he may not been playing.
Well, that's sub for the actual. Yeah. Sorry, that's sub for Croatia. So that's why he
Yeah.
didn't play in them games, isn't it? So he's in the Croatian national side then.
No, I don't know if he's actually had a call
Well,
up.
looking at these,
I think they just show those games because you
no,
qualify
he's on
for
the
them.
bench. He's on the bench
Oh,
for
he's on
him.
the bench.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he stayed on the bench, but in the
interesting.
squad then. So squad players.
Yeah, so that again, that's a good sign then. That kind of backs up his quality, if that makes sense. So, like I
And
said, we
he's
was
another
on
one
the
that
bench.
started. He's been in all the under-21 teams and stuff, hasn't he? If I remember rightly. I'm sure
Yeah.
he's been national in all levels. Let me have a look. I had a quick little look at him earlier when you mentioned him. I had a quick look before we did this, to see where he is. Obviously, see if it'll come up with anything for him here. Then
So again, he's not somebody I've seen a lot of, but from what I can kind of see from scores, asking around all that type of stuff, seems pretty highly rated as well. And obviously, he's playing regularly, so you're not having to worry about buying somebody and hoping they get in the team. He's the number one choice. So
yeah. So I was at 7-8 before that. So yeah, Croatia under 20s, under 23. Not played many times, but that was
yeah,
up to May. Yeah, he's not played many
wicked.
times, but he's been there each level, hasn't
The Zoom's going to run out in 5 minutes, so I'm going to go to the toilet again. You want
he?
to
Yeah.
fire up a new one, then we'll do your selections.
Okay. Okay, so looking at the five keepers, and just so people can see them again there, and they are in like floor order from highest to lowest. So there's quite a choice there. There's a five. And I also wanted to ask you just about the other keepers on my watch list, just to see how they're getting on. So I'm just going to have a look at that.
Yeah.
So I'll come out of this. I don't know if they're still great keepers or not, but I remember we've talked about them in the past. So I thought I'd mention a few of them. We won't go into detail with them all as much as we did with them ones.
Yeah,
Just
same
come back to
list.
that again.
Nearly as good as
We'll edit
as
that out.
me.
We'll edit
I just leave it in. That's the best laugh. Come on,
that.
we're
Who's
not
we you,
sitting in a
How bad we
studio.
are.
We're not sitting in a studio. We're just trying to make some content. So
That's very true. Yeah. Right. So let's put these on the floor price again, and we'll go from like top to bottom. So the cheaper ones at the bottom when it gets right.
yeah.
It's so low. I'll be doing a lot of editing, won't I? Right. So we've got then the first one, then Lucas Chevalier. What's your thinking on him now?
Yeah, so he's nailed starter obviously at Lille. So yeah, I think he's doing pretty well overall. And there's talk of he might get the French under 21 gig as well. Mesley started the friendly, but Chevalier had a wee knock, and there was a lot
Yeah.
of talk of he might well get the nod. So I think again, champ Euro selection. He's playing with Leo. Leo are a pretty good team. He's homegrown guy there. He seems to be
Quite
doing pretty
expensive, isn't
well.
it?
Yeah, I mean, his averages you'll see is actually lower than those other five goalkeepers I picked out. So you've got to consider stuff
Why
like
does
that.
it do that? What's it do that for?
I think I don't know if that was one of those spells where
Oh, it's
there
not
was
covered by
just
Opta, maybe, or something like that.
he was on loan in League Two, and
Right.
Sorare were covering League Two at that point. So Although he did quite well there. He got a couple of Player of the Months there, and that kind of encouraged Leo to bring him
Yeah.
back and then promote him to be number one. So yeah, I mean, as a long term buy, I still do really like him. He's a good goalkeeper.
We'll go to the next one. So I'll flick through them. I'll show them as we'll look at their scores and the price and stuff, and then we'll have a little talk about them moving to the next one. So how do you even say this one? Marco Kaneski.
Hanaseki.
Kanaseki. We're expecting him to
Yeah.
start in under 21s, aren't we?
Yeah. He's quite expensive as well, so there's a couple of
Yeah.
reasons for that. Firstly, Cremonese, I think, were in bundles, so the resale was kind of controlled by guys buying bundles, so his rare prices were just crazy for ages because he only had a couple of rares. His SO5 scores are not too bad considering he played for Cremonese. He was on loan from Atalanta, and I think he's out of contract, so there's talk of either going to Juventus or Atalanta try and secure him and get him into the team type thing. But he's got a lot of bad scores in there, but they were rotten. So
he had a 7 and then got dropped. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think they'd already been relegated at that point. So I think that they were gone. So
it wasn't worth. Okay.
I think they were a goner. So actually, a 48 average, overall, given the position in the league that Cremonese were in, is quite good. And there's loads of talk of him moving to either going back. Yeah. So, I mean, and he's playing for Italy under 21s. I tell you, they do have a couple of good young goalkeepers in Italy as well. Can't remember the guy's name, the guy who played with Barry and things. So, yeah, they do have options there as well at Italy, and he's got the gig. So, yeah, that's a good sign of confidence behind him, I think.
But Mamadashvili, I won't click on them all, let's say, but he's he sort of lost his place, didn't he? And then he's sort of in and out, isn't he? He says there 100% of his last 5, but is he playing every single game for him?
I think he's been playing, but Valencia have been pretty poor, right? So they were kind of flirting with relegation, and then eventually they pulled away quite late. But I think the problem is that he just played in a team that was conceding a lot of goals, right? I mean, he conceded a few to Scotland last night as well, but he made one save, which was just proper top class. You watch it back, and that's really
if he
good.
conceded a lot to Scotland, mate, I'm binning him. I'm not.
Listen, Scotland have won 4 out of 4. We're
going to Germany. I know they're doing well, mate.
But yeah, only 22, 2 years of under 23s left, and he's been linked with some moves. I mean, obviously, the latest link today was Spurs because Spurs don't want to pay 40 million for Raya. So I think he'd be a really good signing for Spurs.
Yeah, didn't play tonight. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but he only played.
The other day, didn't he? Against
Scotland last night. So I think the plan was to join after that.
Yeah, Cavalier. This is a big name that's going around at the moment, isn't it? Because he's due to transfer, isn't he?
Well, I think Lokomotiv bought him from Dinamo, so there's a bit of talk of, which is natural, if Livakovic goes to the buy and back. Now, there's two things. Dinamo have got Nevestic, who was under 23s until just now, and is sort of timed out. But he went on loan to another Croatian club, and he did pretty well too. Apparently, he said that he's quite happy at Lokomotiv playing. And obviously he's in the under 21s.
They do loan players in. They've got a young team. Look at them scores.
Yeah, pretty good. There, yeah. So I think he's a young talent. Obviously, he's not the goalkeeper for Croatia under 21s, but then you've got Pander and Katarski, who Katarski's ahead of him in terms of experience and stuff. But yeah, I mean, obviously 21 and he's got a good amount of time ahead of him. You've got to keep an eye on what happens. Does he get re-signed by Zagreb as the backup or whatever? I don't think that's on the cards at the moment. I think from what he said, he wants to stay there. But, if he's doing well, then there'll be eyes shining on him or light shining on him from people looking at that league because it's a league where loads of good players come out.
I mean, this next one, I saw some scores from him not long back and I thought he looked quite decent. I haven't bought any yet, but he looked all right. He's not playing all the games. Yeah, he's not playing all the games.
Yeah, he was back up to Safanov. So I think that there's still a bit of talk of him going there. I think
is Safanov not?
Safanov's still there, but they dropped Safanov for this guy like near
Yeah.
the end of the season or more games. But interestingly, they also I think played this guy in the Russian Cup final instead of Safanov. So I don't know if that
Right.
means that they're going to sell Safanov
Yeah.
or
Once I can get
they
the money
just
for him.
yeah.
Yeah, he's another one I just
Safanov.
looked at. How much is he? 43, well, £25 for his 3 day average. That's
Yeah.
quite good, I think, for that.
Yeah, so he played the
Um,
Russian Cup final, which isn't SO5 covered, but that's a sign
yeah,
of confidence.
this Dialate was there was two decent keepers there, wasn't there? There was like two good backups, wasn't there? Was it him and
Yeah.
I can't remember the other guy's name? Was it
Well,
Sorensen?
he's Jorgensen.
Jorgensen, yeah, Jorgensen. And they were
So
battling it out between themselves, wasn't
he's been playing for Villarreal too. They kind of
they?
made
Yeah,
him the number one goalkeeper at Villarreal too, and also he's the Andorra goalkeeper as well. So
so he's always going to
he's
play.
actually a good price because of that. But what you got to watch there is obviously Pepe Reina's retired now, so where
Yeah,
they in the B team and then they're going to bring him back to the main team to be a backup or whatever. So that's your
his
risk if
scores
you
could
back
go
him.
down, really, couldn't they? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Nicholas Heidel, another one that
yeah.
he's not a massive big name, is he? But with some of these
I still
keepers,
think
I've
he's
been watching
decent.
them.
Yeah.
They look to do quite well, or okay, I should say. Not really well, but for the price as well. I mean, 22 to 29 quid. I think that's decent, but I haven't checked his scores just recently. But he's one of them names from the past. You only keep hearing them all the time. And you're thinking, how's he getting on
Yeah.
now?
But I think his team's pretty poor in terms of
Yeah,
form. I
looks
think
poor
that's
there,
a
doesn't he?
major issue.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
he was getting his decent scores here when I started to look at him and noticed him. But down recently, poor. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's not brilliant, is he? Recently, a few mistakes here and
Yeah.
the poor scores there. Look.
He plays with a poor team, and again, it is a league where I would say there's generally quite a lot of goals in the league. You know, it's not a league that's renowned for good
Yeah,
defending or whatever. But I mean, the advantage of him is he's young, he's got a few years left, and
yeah.
he
And it's
does
cheap.
look like he's nailed under, nailed goalkeeper. So
Yeah, I mean, Jonas Erbig was playing when I was looking at the Division Two teams, and I had a load of Division Two teams. He was playing in that, and did they get they
yeah.
stayed up? Didn't they? I think did they stay up?
Um,
Can't know if they
I
stayed
think he
up or
was
went
only on
down.
loan anyway, though, wasn't he? He was on loan. I think they would have to renew the loan. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Let me
he
see.
is going out on loan again. So Regensburg,
He was
he
all
was due.
right, wasn't he?
Yeah,
He's only young, so. But he was a name that used to come around. I'm going back like 2 years ago now, and we're thinking, is he going to do okay? And he's broken into a team on loan, obviously, but he
yeah.
broke in. He was doing okay, but
Well,
yeah, he's
Regensburg
better
went
than
down.
that.
They went down, but he's owned by Cologne, I think. So
Yeah,
I think he's going to get loaned again to Bundesliga too. So I don't think you need to worry about them going down in terms of him staying there. I think that they're trying to find him another Bundesliga two team.
yeah.
So
It's good experience, isn't it? 2028. He's under 23s until
yeah.
that's young, isn't it?
So if you want to sit on him and you
Yeah,
know like at 20 quid's a good price, just not done many good scores, but again played in a team that get relegated.
yeah. I mean, he could always be backup, couldn't he? For like if you've got your under 21s, under 23s team, you've got Verbruggen and that. As they sort of time out age wise, he could be
Yeah.
coming well up by then. Same as Theo Sander, whatever you want to call him. Will he get his
Maybe
place back now? And didn't they get relegated
they get relegated, but he's signed for Inter Milan, I think.
from that? So he's going to be a backup, isn't he?
Well, yeah, but Inter Milan, obviously they had the lad at Volendam as well. Can't remember his name. Stankovic. So I think Inter Milan have to get young goalkeepers to try and find a loan. So he might actually be a good one because obviously he's pretty young. Inter Milan have spent money on him. Again, that's a good sign. Doesn't mean he'll turn out to be a world beater, but you'd imagine they'll try and find him first team football somewhere.
But
So
he got in quite early, didn't he? I remember last year you told me about him and saying he was going to break through. And this is probably this year, maybe. I can't remember now. But he broke in, didn't he, into that team
yeah,
before Mantle got there, wasn't it?
yeah.
And then he signed Mantle
Um,
and he sort of lost his place a bit.
He's only 18, so
Yeah.
I mean,
He had
like
some good scores, though, didn't he? What I remember. Yeah, a couple of 83 or 60. Something he did okay, him.
eventually dropped him for Mantle, but I think
Yeah,
they brought in Mantle for somebody who maybe was a wee bit further on experience-wise. I mean, this guy's 18, so usually a relegation battle's not for an 18-year-old, but
yeah,
they've managed
playing.
to get a fee for him still, which is obviously be important for that club, I'd imagine. And now they're going
Yeah.
down to the next division. So
See, that might be worth snapping up as rare. 276 for his rare. That's quite good, isn't it?
yeah,
Future keeper, but
yeah.
so that's Sandy. Who else have we got on this list? And I'll go a bit quicker through them. So we've got Pepe
Yeah.
Bonny. Is he ever going to break through, do you think?
I think they loaned him to a lower league French team, so I don't really know much about him at the
Yeah,
moment.
bit of experience there, but he's really cheap. And look, £5.
Yeah,
£5, that's
half
cheap.
a punt probably still. Yeah,
Yeah. Dylan Deitch or Deesh, what do you want to call him? He was playing. He got into a team, didn't he? And they were looking to get relegated, if I remember rightly.
yeah. So he was playing
Um,
with team in Belgium who got
yeah,
relegated, Serang, I think. But I think he's going back to Metz, and obviously Metz. I think pretty sure they stayed in League Two in France, so it's kind of whether or not um, he actually gets
Mets.
into that team or not.
Yeah, Mets had a good keeper, I think, didn't they? Though
Was it Ukija or something? I can't remember
it
who
was
it
all
was.
right, him money. He was
Yeah,
quite a decent keeper, but he
but
was
if
the
they
one
don't
that
get up,
was. Yeah, he was a
they,
young
they
lad
might give
doing
him
all
a
right.
chance.
Yeah, and then I remember because I bought one. I think I bought a rare like a year ago or so. He was doing okay when he was starting to hit a few of these scores here, but just got rid. You know me, I get rid of my rare straight away, don't
And it all went Sarang.
I? Very good, mate. That one was getting cut as well.
That's
Who we got
my
then?
best joke. You better not cut that out. Olsen,
Olafson. What do
yeah,
you think? Is he still going to
yeah.
be good?
Well, Losso, I think, seems to be pretty nailed at the moment. But again, Olsen's one of those guys I bought. I've got his super rare as well. He's
Wow.
still under 23s next season too, so I do rate him. I think he's good. I'm
Yeah,
hoping that if he doesn't break in, that it'll be a similar situation to Sander, where they might just cash in and sell him.
yeah.
And you've seen guys from those leagues go to like Holland and stuff before as well.
I mean,
So
he's 23 at the moment, isn't he? So he's only got like 1 year left, does he? So
1 year left, but still that important year of under 23 utility. And there's a lot of goalkeepers
yeah,
coming in.
can make a lot from that. And then we've got Toby Layson, who eventually, depending on what happens with Van der Voort, he should get that place, shouldn't he? I think, unless they've got
I
someone
think
else in
they're
mind.
I think they look as if they're sort of training him up for that. There's another guy there called Pender, and he seems to be
Yes.
quite highly
Yeah.
rated as well. And there's a bit of chat about him. Obviously, licensed 21, and he's not really played yet. But Martin's been really nailed there. So it's whether or not they feel as if they want to bring in somebody with more experience. I still think he's a reasonable punt at this stage. He's only 21 and still got a few years left. And if he doesn't manage to get in it, Genk, then he might do
Yeah.
something similar to Lamens, who
So
has moved to Antwerp and just kind of gets fed up and wants to go and get
yeah,
some football somewhere. So
but there was talk of Martin going early, wasn't there? Leaving early.
yeah, I think
I don't,
they're just going to leave him at Genk for the
they're
other
leaving him.
season.
Good.
So
I've got a Martin, so I'm happy with that. I'll be all right.
yeah,
Then we got Lotka. He's out of
yeah,
Dortmund, isn't he?
yes,
He's
he's been
22,
playing
so he's
for yeah, he's a bit older. He's been playing for Dortmund too, so I think the thing is Dortmund obviously do have a second team, so and they're not
yeah,
in Bundesliga two, they're in like the third tier or the third level down. Um, I like him from what I can see.
mm,
He was loaned out and he was getting some games. I think it was at
uh,
Hertha Berlin or something. So
yeah,
like, I like the look of him. I'm hoping that Dortmund
yeah. Got
finds
Euros there.
some covered first team football for him. So rather than Dortmund two, whether or not they find like a Bundesliga two loan or a loan out with Germany for him, because I think he's ready to play, and I think he's one of these guys that he'll be completely under the radar that just now because he's not been
Yeah,
in the actual Dortmund squad. But if you want to take a flyer on him at £5 or £6 or £7, then
not a bad
yeah, I
price
mean,
there. Look, for
yeah,
that price, 149 again. If you can
yeah.
hold
He's
him, if you
only
got the Gallagher,
22. He's only
what?
22,
Sorry.
so you're getting a couple of years under 23's coverage as well.
Yeah,
You're not you
yeah,
get 2 years. So and under 23 goalkeepers usually do carry some sort of premium, and if he gets quite a good move for some reason, maybe a team like a Genk next season or something that needs somebody in loan because they've got a goalkeeper spot to fill or whatever. You just
Yeah,
don't know how it's going to go. Because Lamens went to Antwerp. Everybody's saying, why has he done that? Well, Beauty's a really solid number one, and then the next minute you see Beauty's been linked with moves to other teams. So
yeah.
they might be preparing for the possibility they might lose him.
Okay, on to the next one. This is one of your highly rated ones, isn't it, Guttelbauer?
Yes,
He's still not playing yet, is he?
I think he's going to
But
play next season though.
yeah, hasn't the
So
keeper moving? Is the keeper moved the number one?
yeah, I think that there's an issue. Either he's out of contract or something's happened. This one's been an unlucky one because the number one goalkeeper got injured, and as it transpired, Gutel was injured at the same time. He had a shoulder injury,
That's
so
yes, yes, I remember that now.
fallen off the radar because
Six
there was
pounds.
talk of he was playing the cup games and there was talk of he was going to get his chance in the team, and he got injured. So
Yeah,
people are there's not real hype around him now. We've talked earlier about obviously Hedel and Wolfsburg are probably not a team that keep a lot of clean sheets or whatever, but he's a
yeah.
guy I do think once he gets in he'll stay in. So he might not be doing amazing scores, but again he's very very cheap, and it looks like UC's last super rare went for like 800 quid or something. So it looks like he's
These are
going
the
to
guys
be.
I would be looking at now. These are type because 180, 200 quid is at one of the lowest points.
Yeah,
And if he gets that move, bang, his price is up in it.
yeah. In 2 years of under 23s, so you're not just covering next season. If you do need
Yeah,
to sit on it a wee bit, even at 5 or 6 quid, I mean, when the Euro season's back, you'd expect a young goalkeeper like that to be at least 20 quid. So you're talking about 3 times in your profit, even if
yeah,
he's not doing very good scores. If he comes in and does some good scores, gets some good momentum behind him, it could be higher.
yeah. Another one was Vesterveld. Is this is he the
Yeah,
son of Vesterveld, is he?
he is. Yeah,
He is, so yeah.
that was a guy that used to play for like Sander Westerveld. Yeah,
Yeah, he was at
it's
Liverpool, wasn't he?
Sander's son. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Again,
so
he's young, 27. Look, he's got under 23 utility till 2027. So he's gonna be young. I mean, he had a look, his price shot up there to £10. It's not a lot, is it? But for
I
a
was checking. I wasn't me the bottom.
yeah. He's a young
Yeah, I
lad, isn't he?
mean, he's one that you would just want to tuck away in the gallery.
Yeah.
You buy
What's
him,
it?
you spend your 2 or 3 quid on him, and just say, look, I'm just going to keep this guy. AZ do develop a lot of good
Yeah.
goalkeepers. He's
It's not a
quite
lot of them
highly
either. Look,
rated.
17 of them.
Yeah,
I think I bought one of the first ones of these when he was limited. I'm sure I got
yeah.
one of the first ones. Probably after
So a wee bit
talking to
higher.
yourself.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
about 20 quid then, I think.
Oh, there we are. Look, yeah. I
Yeah,
got him at 18.94. I probably sold them for like 10 quid just to get rid. But because,
yeah,
I change all the time, like I say. But at the time, it was one of these where I was investing in the young keepers. Then I changed my strategy again and went with players that are playing now all the time. So, but
yeah.
now I've got my team set. These are the type of players that I'm going to be looking at now for the future, where I want to bring all these youth players back in again now as backups.
I think he's
So yeah,
good price now because his price settled down, and
yeah,
it's highly rated in Holland, and AZ developed lots of good players, so there's a lot of pedigree there and stuff as well. So, and he's very
yeah,
young. Some of these guys you just maybe going to have to realise that you might have to actually wait a bit of time. He might not get a loan straight away or whatever. It might be a guy that might be playing next season or whatever. You just got to sort of wait. But yeah, there's loads of choice on there, and that's obviously some guys we were looking at from previous video and everything
yeah,
as well. It's interesting
yeah.
to see how they're doing and how they're
I like
performing.
Chevalier.
Yeah, and their prices being under 23s do tend to hold up better than some other prices can hold up just because of that under 23 usage or utility, and
Yeah,
use a more restrictive pool in terms of players,
I mean,
excluding all the guys over 23, obviously, but that's a lot of the actual player base that's excluded from that tournament. So
yeah.
brings some.
If you look at that, Mark, now and you had 200 quid to spare, just sitting, and you bought every one of them, you could make a bit of money, couldn't you? I'm guessing.
Yeah,
Obviously, he's 111, so you'd have to have a little bit more. But some of these lower ones here that might make it eventually into the once
yeah,
under 23s and that, you could do
yeah.
quite well out of them, I think.
Good buys, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the ones who are like on that list, if you bought every one of them and just waited until they actually played
Yeah,
football on Sorare, you would likely make a profit there.
Yeah,
I know that not everybody's actually able to
I'm
do
gonna say
that, but
maybe you can, yeah.
yeah.
Or with
But
the
I mean,
rares, if you had the money for the rares, but that 44 quid for Bonnie, but it's a shame.
on the super rare wise, like I've kind of started doing that a wee bit, and people think I'm a complete mentalist spending like
I
three,
get
four
it, yeah, I get it with
quid.
the super rares because
But
eventually, if they make it, it's a massive profit, isn't it?
yeah,
It's just if you've got 800 quid spare, and I haven't. That's the whole gallery near enough. I mean, 240
yeah,
there, but that's the cheapest, isn't it? 370 for Olson's quite cheap because his rare was going for that not long back. But
yeah.
obviously, there's
This
not
rare
many for
was way
sale,
above
so
that 1 point.
yeah, you won't get it for that. Look, 1,300 quid for his lowest price one.
But you might get an auction, so he's still been auctioned. I think that's probably just the lowest
Yeah,
floor at the moment. So it depends if you get an auction coming in as well. So and people have got to watch that. But I mean, Gutelbar, you've highlighted there, he did go for 700 or 800 like
yeah,
yesterday. So that's a
yes,
reaction in the super rare market to the fact people think he's going to play. And actually, at super rare level, the reason it's really good to spend the 2 or 300 is you don't necessarily always get the same percentage of uplift or whatever, but it's actually you're not having to then hopefully next season go and have to press a button to spend like over
yeah,
£2,000 on a young goalkeeper that might get injured or get dropped or whatever. You see what play your
yeah.
super rare team and you finally do it and you spend that money and then something happens and they bring
Oh,
in
no.
another keeper or whatever. So it's a different risk level, obviously.
And is there anyone else that you haven't seen on that list that you still think might just make it yet? For guys that are out there that are looking for a keeper that they
Yeah,
might want to take a punt on again, is there any more that you can think of? Like, there's
yeah.
loads, probably, isn't there? But any that catch your eye?
Well, I mean, he obviously always trades at quite a good price because of who he is, but I think Trubin should get his move to Europe at the moment. Obviously, he is actually one of the higher value price ones, so he's probably not so much like a punt, if that makes sense. But I think he's a guy who I think should probably move and could get quite a good move as well because he's got a lot of pedigree. He's playing for Ukraine. He's playing for Ukraine under 21s.
Yeah, he's playing under 21s this week, isn't he?
Yeah,
But he should make
Lamens
this
has
one.
already moved. So he's already moved. I'm just kind of having a look through the
Yeah.
different national squads and stuff just now. One guy I've got just now who's kind of a wee bit disappointed he didn't get a game actually was Samuel Suarez. So the
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
played
Portugal.
the guy Selton by, but I don't think there's any real disgrace there because Samuel Suarez was on the bench for Benfica not getting games, and the other guy was getting games in Portugal. One interesting one I think in the Portugal squad is Francisco Mexedo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had him for a while.
Obviously, Douglas um, Diogo Costa, sorry, is probably going to go because Porto need to raise money, and then obviously they've got Claudio Ramos and Mixedo is a
A
good
lot of
young
keepers,
talent.
isn't there?
So that kind of opens up maybe some sort of route into the Porto team for him. Whether or not they give it just to Ramos in connection with experience and stuff, but then it
Yeah.
kind of promotes him through in terms of actually playing. And I'm just having a look through it, see if there's anybody else really that
Yeah, I've
sort of
just put the list in here for the champion keepers under 23s, but
yeah.
look down see if anyone catches your mind. But
So yeah, there's a few of these. I mean, you see a lot of them are 24.
yeah, yeah, you
That's
can't
one
get
of the real issues there that
the
they're
form
timing
going.
out.
Yeah,
Yahya Fafana, his teams Angers, they get relegated. So I think again he's
Fafana, yeah,
already risen, but they've said that he's going to play. So I think they're going to drop Bernard. Is it Bernardoni? Paul Bernardoni. So
yeah.
anyway, the goalkeeper, I think they've said they're going to make the change back. He's going to get his chance. Carl Hines, quite an interesting one because he does play for Estonia, so obviously they're getting bashed up a good amount. But he's
Yeah,
owned by Arsenal, and he's playing for his national team, and so you're getting a wee bit of utility, and maybe Arsenal find a loan for him in the Championship or whatever.
yeah.
So he's a
That'd be
kind
a
of
good
cheaper
move.
price one, yeah. But he's a bit higher just now. He's that price because he's been playing for Estonia, so you probably want to wait
Yeah,
until he drops down a wee bit. The general advantage of like having the second leagues and everything on is that you've kind of got a couple of chances. You've got a chance to get in the team, a chance to get a loan as well. So you can maybe take some of these punts thinking, well, these guys might well get their chance playing the lower level. You've skipped past them, but Dogan Alamdar, he's still in the
Yeah, look,
20s, so
yeah,
equivalent to some of the guys who are playing. But again, Mandanda's really getting on. Naturally, Mandanda's had some Saudi Arabia links. I know everybody has had, but you
but
know,
not again.
he'll get his chance at some point. So again, he's kind of pricey, but that also suggests that people are really know that he's good. And obviously, he played games in Turkey, and there's evidence there I've seen that he's a good, solid young goalkeeper. So
Yeah,
sometimes if you can get a good priced auction or whatever, then you've got to go with that if you want to buy him. But then there are guys I think you could take more of a chance on under £10. If you've got a small budget or whatever, you're probably
yeah.
looking for guys who are like,
Look at De Kezia, 11 quid.
yeah.
But it's
So that's an
23 now.
interesting one. But Celtic have released Barkas, so they paid a lot of money for Barkas, and he was on a big contract. And eventually, I think they were trying to sell him to Utrecht, and Utrecht were wanting him, but Utrecht said, "Well, we can't really actually afford these wages and all that sort of stuff." And
Yeah,
I'm not even sure Barkas will go to Utrecht. I think he's done quite well, and what might happen is he might get another move in Holland. So, for example, Nick College was really really good. If
yeah,
somebody were to buy him, then that opens up a slot there with team like Sparta, who are a good sort of mid-table challenging for Europe type teams. So get guys like that who you know like FDK, the Kaiser.
yeah.
He could really get back in the Utrecht team and get back to where he was before.
It's worth a
One point
punt,
he
isn't he? I
was the
think.
guy that played for under 20 ones for Holland.
Yeah, yeah. It's worth a punt. Daughter, was he on loan at Aberdeen, or has he moved permanent now?
He was
I
on
think he's
loan.
back, isn't he? He's gone back, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He
He
looks all
played
right,
and
daughter.
then Kel Roos came back in and he was dropped immediately. So
Yeah,
again, that's a bit worrying, I think, if you're an owner.
yeah.
Obviously, it's a young goalkeeper, but Ajax pedigree and all that type of stuff. You would have thought that if he's going to go on and do anything, he should have probably been keeping that place there. But Roos came back in, and to be fair, Roos ended up the goalkeeper of the season in Scotland. So he did
Yeah,
very well. But Aberdeen had a bit of a transformation, and obviously maybe just went for more experience and stuff there. So
yeah. I mean,
and
a lot of
you'll
these now
see,
are just they're
nah,
not
he'll run.
not quite well known yet, are they? The rest of them.
I think the thing
I
is,
think.
I don't think you can just go about buying every like goalkeeper that's 20 on the
Yeah,
platform. Obviously, there's going to be guys that aren't really any good. So I think you've got to look for certain things. Like, have they had some sort of chance before? Have they had some sort of loan before, even if it's uncovered? Or like, who's in the squads? Like, just look through the under 21s just now and see the quality that's in these squads. Guys like Pandur, guys like Kavlina, who are even sitting on the bench. So
mm.
look at the key tournaments for the international teams and have a look
That's
there
the
and
way in
see.
it. The under 21s, under 17s, 18s, 19s. Looking through all them.
Yeah.
What
What
that's the what's the
I
five one?
missed one. So thing one to suggest is Barzik. So the lad that Bruges paid like 3 million for, although it was Scott Parker who spent the money on him. But I
How
think
are we
he's
spelling that?
interesting.
How are you spelling that?
Bursik.
Who is it? Joseph Burzik.
Yeah. He was the England under 21 goalkeeper up until recently, and he's lost his place in that squad because he's went to Bruges and he's not getting any games.
Oh, dear me.
Yeah,
So
so
he could go out somewhere and unload. Yeah, because his price shot up, didn't it? There.
yeah, so Stoke. He was playing for Stoke. He's represented England at all youth levels. Um, he looks good. I've actually seen him playing before as well. I think he played as part of the England team that won like either the World Cup or the Euros at like under 20s level or whatever. So he's got a wee bit of pedigree and stuff there as well. And I think the real interesting thing here is obviously Mignolet's getting on a bit. So does he take over that backup role from Lamens, or was he just a signing of Scott Parker, and Bruges go, oh, hang on, we've sacked Scott Parker and spent 3 million in this guy. Let's just get some money back from him. So
if you get him for a tenner at auction, then yeah, it could be worth it, couldn't he?
he's a good goalkeeper. So you might need to have patience. I'm not saying he'll definitely play next season or anything, but I bought his super rare, and I'm just going to sit on that, and like he's good.
If you're buying super rares, you know that they're a decent player. If they're young and you're buying their super rare, and he's obviously going to make some appearances, I think. So, yeah.
I'm trying to protect my own gallery from future as well, because I love the under 23s and I always want to play it. But if you look at like how much a super rare Bart Verbruggen is, it's like £4,000 or £5,000. So like it's hard to go and spend that type of money, even if you've won it or whatever. You're still inclined to say, right.
Especially guys like me, I've got no chance of doing that at the moment until I've got all the limiteds done, and then maybe moving to rares. But
even if you did have £10,000, you probably still wouldn't spend it on that. And actually, if you had a couple £100 and you wanted to protect your gallery or buy a guy who you think might make profit in future, it's a good strategy. But you've got to pick the right ones, and that's why obviously people maybe listen to me or you or see who we are buying, because I don't buy every under 23 in the platform. I buy certain ones, and a lot of them have made me a really, really, really good profit, or I've had really good use out of them, and that's a good result either way. So if you buy good pedigree young players that are playing for their international teams and have got years left in under 23s, even if you have a frustrating spell where they're on the bench, eventually when they do play, their prices shoot up, and you'll make some sort of profit, or you'll have a guy who you can use for the next 4 or 5 years or whatever, hopefully, in your SO5 teams.
Well, I think that covers quite a lot of them there, Mark. We've gone through about 20 odd keepers there. Your top 5 that you mentioned there to look out for. So if the guys can afford them, go and buy them 5. I'll certainly be looking at least one of them minimum, and then maybe getting a few of these as backups so I can afford them at the price wise. But really like that.
I think a lot of them are at prices now with the platform where you can put a couple of quid and a couple of quid's fun money in terms of actually saying, well, you know, I could maybe say, well, I'll maybe buy one of them every weekend or whatever, and just sort of build up my gallery and either turn them over for a profit at some point, or hopefully if I'm still playing in a year or two's time, I've got a wee squad of goalkeepers who are playing, or it gives me access to the under 23s where I can't afford to pay 30, 40 quid per player or whatever, but it gives me a chance to take my shot at those fun tournaments essentially. And some of them turned out pretty good. I mean, and I know we look clever and all that now, but you'll back me up here. I have been talking about
Verbruggen so many times.
Talking about Verbruggen in our WhatsApp chat for a year and a half or something, and as it turns out, all the research and everything was right, and he's proven that he's really good. Yeah. So sometimes you've got to back your judgment, even though the guys are.
To say though, I check your gallery, and whenever you buy a keeper and then you buy your super rare, it's like alert, bang, bang, bang. A bright spot a keeper, and he's going at every level. So that's when I start thinking,
I'll need to remember that. I'll buy all the limiteds, then wait till I buy the super rare and then sell them.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm kidding.
Mark, we're gonna have to leave it there because we're running out of time again. So we'll leave it on the keepers this week. But I think we're going to do a few more chats out, which will make a bit shorter for other people in the future.
That's fine. No, but I think that's a good topic to cover as well. Under 23s it's a really good time to talk about it, because a lot of the top guys are 24. So you've got to keep an eye on who you think is going to be useful for next year. So
well, we'll come out and we'll do some more videos on that, but we'll move into maybe defenders and midfielders, forwards. We'll come up with a few that we can entertain with, shall we say, and the people can start following you and what you're buying and what you're looking at and why you're looking at them. Sure. You've got a really good eye for that, which I've seen. So I've seen that for myself. We've been chatting for about 2.5 years, haven't we, I think now?
Yeah.
And we like the same sort of players, so it's just like you can afford them.
We're still here. We're alive and
I'll end the recording there, Mark, but thank you very much for that.
Right.
And good luck with your games this week. And
awesome.
Hopefully the under-21s go as well. But we'll see. But thank you very much. I'm going to end that recording.
Cheers, Wakey. Good stuff.